Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're gonna get vulnerable, okay? Not me about to expose myself, but I really wanted to do this video because I know that it's going to impact someone. I think that a lot of the time we see people on social media and assume that because they have a following, they don't go through things like what I'm about to explain. And I just want to really just bridge the gap and show you guys like things like this happen to everybody. It's possible for anyone. Like you could be having a really amazing season and then the next season like things just drastically change. Let's get into the video. So let me paint this picture. Last year we thought that things were really looking up, okay? Recently I had found out I was pregnant. We recently moved into this home, this new home. I had recently left my job. So I left my job in December of 2021. So we were going into 2022 just thinking like, man, this is gonna be the year that my husband's business does even more in revenue than it's ever done before. At that point, it was already making over 6 figures. It was doing well. And I was gonna like come alongside him and work in his business. And like, we were gonna really just take it to the next level. And he had recently made this significant investment. It was like well over $20,000 with a marketing company to help it go to another level in business revenue. And we were just expecting a lot. Like we just had the highest hopes. We moved into this house and it is the most we've ever paid in rent before. And we were just like, yeah, this is gonna be okay. Like we're gonna be able to handle this because things were truly looking up, okay? Things are looking up. I had grown the most followers that I had grown. So I think at that point, I had probably around 30,000 followers. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start securing brand deals. It's just gonna be great. Like 2022, knock it out of the park, okay? Gonna be great. And literally, it was not great. It got worse and worse and worse. The pressure just kept getting worse, okay? I was like, what is happening here? So let me just paint the picture for you guys so you guys can see just how things just started to get worse and worse and worse. And I have my notes because I don't want to forget a single thing. So like I said, I recently found out that I was pregnant. So we ended up like doing research because I wanted to do a VBAC, and I ended up finding this really great midwife in Dallas, and we started to work with her. Obviously that comes with midwife bills. So we had this added expense now of midwifery care. Our car broke down. And our car broke down and we were like, oh shoot, like we need to get a different car. So we ended up having to get a different car. And that car, after like a month of driving it, the engine broke out, okay? Elijah and I just have this philosophy of like not buying brand new cars. We're just not into buying brand new cars. We don't believe in it. We don't think it makes any sense because it depreciates in value. Like it's just not the vibe for us. That might change in the future when we're like millionaires, but that's just what we believe. So we ended up getting a used car, and within a month of having that car, like the engine or something like that went out, and the bill was gonna be like $3,000, almost $3,000. And we were like, oh shoot, okay. And we were like, okay, well this will be covered in the 90-day warranty. They were like, yeah, this is not covered. So we're like, okay, like, you know, things were already starting to get a little bit tight. You know, we had the midwifery bill, okay, the car engine that we weren't expecting. We're like, okay, things are starting to get a little bit tight. At this time, I had already mentioned that my husband made this significant investment in his business, and this investment we thought would have paid off by this point in time, and it hadn't. You know, now in the future, it ended up never paying off. But my husband had made this huge investment, and it literally at the time we were expecting to get a return on that investment, and we didn't get it at that time. So it got so bad that it started to really burn a hole in the business. And not only that, my husband's business revenue just started dropping out of nowhere. Like the income was dropping. He wasn't making those like steady, like really great months. It started to like hit a dip, and then that was affecting how much he was paying himself, and things just started getting tighter and tighter and tighter. it got so bad that one time our power got cut off, okay? Like, we came in the house, like, tried to turn on all the lights, like, nothing, okay? Like, that's how bad it was. Like, literally our power got cut off. I'm laughing now because at the time, it was so crazy. And I remember, it's all you can do is laugh, and I'm grateful because I learned so many lessons, which is why I'm doing this video. But at the time, it was so hard, so uncomfortable. I was like calling my really good friend Nana at the time, like every week, just calling her on a weekly basis, like crying about our financial situation, because we had been broke before. Like, when my husband and I first got married, I think around 2018, 2019, things were really bad, you know, like financially, but we weren't feeling the pressure of that because our expenses weren't as high as they are now. All we had was like each other back in 2019 and our son, and we were like, whatever. We were just going off the vibes. We didn't even care. It barely affected us, okay? But like I said, it was because our expenses were barely non-existent. But now our expenses, like at the time, had just climbed and climbed. Like, all of these unexpected things were happening, like the car breaking down, and us having to get this other car, and then that engine going out. You know, we were just recently moved into this home, so the rent was higher. Like, my husband's business investment, I recently left my job. It was like we were expecting the most, but then ended up seeing our finances dip in ways that we could have never imagined, and it was just so bad. So I remember one time I was on the phone with my friend Nana, and honestly, I was like to her, I was like, isn't God Jehovah Jireh? Isn't he Jehovah Jireh? Like, I was going off because I was so mad. I just felt like, I'm like, God, I know you haven't forgotten me, but it feels like you've truly removed your hand from us. Like, what is going on? What is going wrong? Why are all these things going wrong? Like, we were expecting such a great year financially, and it ended up being the worst year ever. Our expenses just kept going like this, and our income just kept going like this, and it was just crazy. And to be completely transparent, it started to cause a lot of tension between my husband and I. We started to really blame each other for the reason we were in the situation we were in. Like, he was just like, you should have never left your job, and I was like, you should have never made this investment. And instead of us coming together and fighting the issue together, we started to like really just view each other negatively and blame each other for the financial situation that we were in. At the time, we had come together and made these decisions. Like, we came together and made this decision about me leaving the job. We came together and made this decision about him making this investment, and we felt good about these decisions, just for us to turn around and start blaming each other about those decisions. Because when you're in a tight space, it kind of brings out the worst in you, and you start to just blame everything around you for why you're in the situation you're in. So it was really, really bad. And I remember it got so bad to the point where we're like, okay, we need to call our friends and we need to get them here, and we need to just talk and tell them everything. And that's exactly what we did. We got Michael and Amanda over, our really good friends. We love them so much. Oh, they're the best. Shout out to you guys. But they came over, and we were in our living room, and we just started to tell them everything. We started to tell them how bad it was. We were telling them, like, I don't know how we got here, you know, like, I just don't know how we got here. And it was so good to just express to them and tell them where we were, because it kind of feels embarrassing, I think, if I'm honest, to reach a certain point in your finances and you think, well, I'm never going to get that low again, you know, like, we're never going to get to a point where we were struggling like we were in 2019. Like, we've passed that stage. And to have the friends we have who are successful, and it felt really embarrassing to bare our hearts and souls and tell them, like, hey, this is what it is. And even though we know they would never judge us and they love us so much, like, it was so nice to really just, you know, get past that barrier and just tell them and be vulnerable about our situation. And that was a turning point for us. We told them, and we strategized together. We talked about it. They encouraged us. They let us know, like, listen, this isn't about any wrong decision you guys have made. You guys didn't make any wrong decisions. Like, everything you guys did was calculated up until this point. And it's true. Everything we did was calculated up until that point. Every decision we made, it was because we thought that things were going to either stay the same or keep going higher. And that just wasn't the case. And that was really nice to hear our friends who we love and respect affirm us and tell us like, you guys didn't do anything wrong. And they really gave a strategy for what was next. So after we talked to whatever, towards the end of the conversation, Amanda said, I wonder, is there something that you guys just haven't done? Is there something you guys haven't tried? And my husband responded and said, I feel like I've tried everything. I feel like I don't even have the capacity to come up with anything else at this moment. And it's true, he had a lot on his plate. He was working in the business. I was helping out with things in the business, but like he just had a ton on his plate. You know, he was playing at churches, building his business, doing all this stuff. And it was just a lot, and still it wasn't enough. And she said, well, Elijah, I'm not talking about you. She's like, I'm actually directing this at Ave. Ave, I don't think you've done all that you can. And that was so convicting to me, and I really needed that to like shake me up and get me to see like, no, there's areas in my life that I haven't been obedient, that I believe caused God to remove his hand from me and my family in this season, and it affected my whole family. So it really got me to thinking, okay, where are the areas that God has told me to do things and I haven't done them? So at that time, a few months ago, he had led me to create this course and I just didn't do it. He had told me he wants me to work on my YouTube channel. After I left my job, I didn't do it, or I wasn't doing it faithfully. And those two major areas really affected our family and our finances. So after we had that conversation, I was like, okay, thank you for telling me this. It wasn't easy to hear at the time, especially because I was already so frustrated about our finances. But I'm glad that she told me what she told me, because it really kicked my butt into gear. She also helped us to see, and Michael helped us to see where we could be more united. Like I was saying, Elijah was feeling a lot of pressure, and that was because up until that point, he was the only one over our finances. Like I was not, when I tell you I had no idea what was happening with our bills, like nothing. Like God forbid something happened to my husband and he passed away, I literally wouldn't even know the passwords to accounts to pay bills. Like that's how bad it was. He handled all of the bills, everything to do with our bills for the last, like, since we've been married. He just handled everything. He covered every single thing. I did not know what was happening in our finances. And I know I didn't know, because when things started to feel tight and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Trader Joe's and I'm gonna go to Target, and he'd be like, there's no money in the account. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? What do you mean there's no money in the account? Like that's how clueless I was. I was so clueless about our finances that this man had to tell me, like, girl, what are you talking about? Where are you gonna go? Like, there's no money in our account. Like, have you not, hello? So, and I think he grew resentful of that, because it was like, this girl don't even know what's going on. She just wants to go to the store. I just want to go to Trader Joe's and get my floral arrangements, okay? Like, and yeah, that was just so convicting as well. Like we were not united, and we needed to become more united. So there's just major lessons that we pulled from that and from that conversation with Michael and Amanda, and it was so good. And that was really the turning point. I got so serious about being obedient. I got so serious. And around that time, I was on the phone with my close friend Nana, and we basically talk every day. But I was telling her at that time on the phone, I was like, yeah, girl, you know, I just feel like this is where God's leading me. And she ended up coming to the same conclusion. Like we were going through a lot of the similar stuff around that time. And she had come to realize there were areas she wasn't being obedient in. And then somebody that I follow online, who I love her stuff, her name is Ty Wilson. Hopefully I can find it. But she posted this prophetic word on Instagram, and I knew that it was for me. So it was just, everything was pointing to my lack of obedience. So let me see if I can find it. Okay, so this is what she said. Here's what Q4 will look like for many of you. Number 1, extreme alignment. For many of you, this will be a time of realignment to the will of God. Yes, some of this misalignment is due to sin, rebellion, and pride, but some is due to curses, cycles, and even your own confessions resisting what God said concerning your life. Repent and renounce. During this time, things, people, places, habits, cycles, and old perspectives will fall away. There will be a great revealing of what's God and what is not. Everything goes that is contrary to God's will. For some, this will provoke great peace and joy, while others will experience great pain due to their inability and their refusal to release what's comfortable or common. Anything he has to do to get you back to what he said concerning you, he will do. This will be a time where several things will come back into alignment, including finances, marriages, friendships, perspective, emotions, heart, family, children, prayer life, and business. She said, number 2, extreme abundant. For some of you, this quarter will be marked with according to his riches. The extreme drought you've experienced in your finances and business will be supplied in a moment. This supply will be more than you've ever thought of or prayed for. It will be supernatural and it will be God. Many will experience a fresh wind and grace on their ability to create, produce, and even see things with new eyes. I see many kingdom businesses being similar to wine that has been sitting for some time. While you've named this failure, the Lord was allowing it to sit for a time to become more potent and create a demand. While many will think it's unwise to start again or to start for the first time, you will see much success. The fruit will be your proof that God is with you. She goes on to talk about agility and all that, but this part really spoke to me. She said, the extreme drought you've experienced in your finances and business will be supplied in a moment. Okay? Like, that I knew was for me because I was truly misaligned. I was not aligned with what God had told me to do. I was not aligned with walking in the obedience God wanted me to walk in. And that's why I was experiencing the drought that I was experiencing, and it affected our whole family. And that was just another confirmation on top of confirmation on top of confirmation that I needed to be obedient and just walk in the things God's called me to do. So I kicked my course into gear. I launched it in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy. Even though I was tired and I was exhausted, I did it. Oh wait, back up. Before I go into how things changed, I also want to touch on the fact that because my following had grown, and that was another area where I expected that I was going to get brand deals and things were just going to become really lucrative for me in that area, brands would keep reaching out to me. They would ask me for my rates and then ghost me, and this kept happening and happening and happening. And I was starting to get discouraged and even more discouraged. And then I had a big brand reach out to me and I was really excited. They asked me for my rates. Everything seemed like it was progressing, and then they ghosted me. And I was like, okay. Then I ended up following up and was like, hey, like, what's going on? Basically, I didn't say it like that. I said it obviously more professional. But they ended up telling me that, oh, the brand decided to go in a different direction. That was a bummer, but I was like, okay. Then they reached out to me again, like maybe a month and a half later. And at this point, I had signed with my current manager. And she was pitching me. I was being ghosted, like it wasn't working. And then this big brand reached back out to me and I was really excited. I sent the information over to my manager. She was like, negotiating everything for me. And then they ended up saying like, yeah, we're not gonna work with you essentially, like, because they asked me what my rates were. I told them my rates, and then they were like, well, we have only this much left in our budget. So essentially, they had chosen all of their influencers, paid out most of their budget, and then was offering me crumbs, essentially what was happening. And I was so desperate that I was like, okay, I'll take it. Even though I know this is far below my rate, even though I know you guys should be paying me more, I'll take it. And then once I said that, they were like, actually, we decided to go in a different direction. And it was so upsetting for me. And I was just like, God, like, I know I'm supposed to be doing this. Why am I being ghosted? Why are these brands overlooking me? I felt so overlooked. I honestly felt like crap because I was like, what is happening here? And the worst part about it was I would see like brands that were reaching out to me, them ghosting me, and then I would see other influencers on that same campaign, landing those campaigns that brands were basically ghosting me for. So it was just hard. It was just such a hard season for us, but I'm grateful that it happened, because I needed to learn some really hard lessons that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So, okay, turning point, Michael and Amanda come over. We have that conversation, and I really start busting my butt. You know, I start going hard with my course. I launched my course and I serve the women that I'm called to serve in the course, and it's really fulfilling for me. I was in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy, so I was exhausted and it was hard, but I did it, you know. Then I started to like be more faithful in my YouTube channel, and that was hard, but I did it, you know. And then like the culmination of like me learning to do hard things was me having my VBAC at home, giving birth at home, like no pain medication, all of that stuff. And it was such a blessing because I really proved to myself that I can do hard things. Like even if it's difficult for me, I can do it. And I really needed to learn that. It was such a hard lesson for me to learn, but God had to kind of orchestrate everything where he removed his hand off of our finances for a season, just so that I could understand, you need to be obedient, Ave. Like, you need to be obedient. And that's when everything really started to turn around. I started to get brand deals again. Well, not again. I started to get brand deals, and it was just so beautiful. It's been really sweet seeing how God has honored my obedience, and he has put his hand back over my finances. And I'm grateful that he's such a good father, because in that season I couldn't understand, I couldn't see why, and I was so confused. But I know that he was teaching me something that is really gonna stick with me for the rest of my life. You know, now I see obedience as not optional. Like, there are women I'm called to, there's people I'm called to, and it's like, if I didn't launch that course, would I have touched the women in the way that I was supposed to? No, you know. This YouTube channel, I know it's touching hearts, and it's like, there are people that are on the other side of my yes, and because I've treated it like an option in the past, I think God had to teach me such a hard lesson, and I'm grateful that he did. Literally, in hindsight, I'm so grateful that he did, and things have been so much sweeter. I'm so much more involved in our finances. My husband and I work together. Like, I know exactly what's going on. I have all of the logins for the bills. And I'm just so much more involved, and it feels better, you know. It feels good. I feel like my husband and I are working together in new ways in our finances that we never did before. I care so much more about like what I'm doing and what I'm outputting, and it feels good to me to come up with videos and come up with video ideas and just steward what God has called me to in a much better way. And I'm so grateful for the lessons that I've learned. And that's really just what I want to impart to you in this video, is that if you found that there's an area in your life that is dry, there's an area in your life that is not fruitful, it could be because you are not being obedient in another area. And there's so much power in obedience, because I believe God blesses you something special when you are being obedient and when you give him your yes, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it is difficult. Because all of the things that I wasn't doing was because I had all of my excuses and all of the reasons why I didn't want to do them. Honestly, quite frankly, I don't think God cared about my excuses. I think he was just like, I've called you to do this. I don't care about your excuses. Do it, you know? And he's blessed me now because of it. Like, things are so much better. We're just not in that season anymore, and it's sweet to say, and I'm so happy to say that. But I had to learn the lessons that I had to learn. So literally going from $0 in brand deal income, worst financial season of our life, to just feeling like we're thriving and we're flourishing and God's hand is back over our finances is the best feeling. And I never want to be disobedient again. Like, now I'm like, this is not an option. And I hope me sharing this lets you guys see, I don't want anyone to have to walk through what I walked through, because it's so uncomfortable and it's not a good feeling. Listen, they say a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. So I don't want you to have to go through the same road that I walked through. Just learn from my mistakes. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment below, let me know what your major takeaway was, and just stick around, okay? Watch another video, okay? Help your girls watch time, subscribe, and like this video, okay guys? Thank you so much for watching. Bye.